Welcome to On the Beat, everyone. I'm Troy Thompson. Joining me today is Dr. Ricky Johnson and Dr. William Gillespie of Gastroenterology Associates of Columbus. And today we're talking all about colitis. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
I have no idea what colitis is. Where do we start?
Well, we're in general, to begin with, we're talking about the colon or the large intestine. And so colitis is basically when that organ gets inflamed, and there's lots of reasons for that. But itis, whenever you see that with any medical term or part of the body, generally means it's inflamed. So that itis, I-T-I-S, means inflammation.
Okay. Is it through the whole colon or is it just parts of the colon?
It kind of depends on the cause. You know, there's several different causes. Some can be infectious, some can be autoimmune, like ulcerative colitis. And different things can affect different parts of the colon.
Right.
So it can either be the whole colon, it can just be one part of the colon. It just kind of depends. Doctor,
I want to talk about the symptoms. How do I know I may have this sitting at home watching us right now?
In general, belly pain, diarrhea, and bleeding, or some combination of those three. And maybe some other things, but those are generally the three hallmarks of it. And most people are fine and then just have maybe the acute onset of this. And some people can present with more chronic symptoms if it's something like ulcerative colitis, which is one of the autoimmune conditions that we see. But if it's an acute colitis, like due to an infection, generally it comes on pretty, abruptly.
When you're doing diagnosis, what are you looking for and how is diagnosis done?
So basically, a lot of times we'll just see somebody that had some of these symptoms like belly pain, bleeding, and they'll go to the ER and get a CT scan, and it'll just show some inflammation in a part of the colon. That doesn't tell us why they have the inflammation, so sometimes we need to do stool tests, sometimes we may need to do a colonoscopy, and those are kind of the main things, the main way we diagnose it.
When you're looking at it, I like to get deep with these type of conversations. Does it look like a polyp when you have a colonoscopy? Where is it sitting? On the outside, on the inside?
It's generally so when they, for instance, on a CT scan, when they do that and colitis shows up on a CT scan, and this really goes for a lot of organs. If they get inflamed, it just looks thicker than it used to. So the colon's like a tube. It's like just a hollow organ, and if it gets irritated, they'll see that the wall just looks thicker than it's supposed to. So that's on x-ray. For us, when we do a colonoscopy, usually we see a very pink, healthy-looking lining of the colon, and with colitis, it might be irritated and red, maybe ulcer.
Angry.
Yeah, you'll hear people sometimes say it looks like raw meat, like hamburger meat, just kind of.
Okay, but it's very active and angry looking.
Exactly.
Okay, now, is it caused by bad diet? What's causing this?
Not necessarily diet. If it's infectious, it's usually just something that you pick up in the environment, maybe from some contaminated food.
Yeah.
Or if it's autoimmune, it's usually something that's more genetic. But it's not necessarily related to a bad diet that we know of. It's usually more something you kind of pick up somewhere along the way. I
want to talk a little bit about what do we do to fix it, and is it fixable?
Yeah, well, it depends on what the cause is. So for a lot of what we see, and particularly if you're going to the emergency room with this, is the acute episodes are more likely related to an infection. So they would be treated with a course of antibiotics and also kind of dietary changes while you're ill. So maybe liquids for a few days and then kind of a bland diet. Yeah. But antibiotics if we think it's infectious. And that's where he mentioned stool studies. That's where that would come in to help us too. We're checking for different kinds of bacteria that could be causing it. If it's something else, if it's like ulcerative colitis, there's a whole different treatment for that we could spend a whole episode.
And things like
or
that.
Medical. We've got a lot of medical treatments for that. And then if it's like a medicine-induced colitis, which we see, or drug-induced colitis, yeah, we may have to just stop the offending medication. There's something we see.
Quite a serious thing then, really.
It can be.
If left untreated.
Right.
We appreciate both of you. Thank you so much. If you want to find out more information, there it all is up on the screen for you. Dr. Ricky Johnson and Dr. William Gillespie of Gastroenterology Associates of Columbus. We'll be back after this short break.